for a big project today. Oh yes, we are. We're rendering down 150 pounds of fat. Now I've got my estimation here, about 30 pounds of lard. So we are going to get us some good lard here in these. I got 4 packs. And then, woo, I have these gigantic, 27, this one's 27.33 pounds. It's like, hey, would you like some beef fat? I have about 120 pounds of beef fat to do tallow. Tallow and lard are good, healthy cooking fat options. I love to cook in bacon grease because bacon grease is a good cooking fat that I can easily get a hold of. I also started to gather up tallow this summer when I did my 2024 Use It Up Freezer and Pantry Challenge as I was cooking down those grass-fed ribs and various cuts from the last full cow that I purchased. I was doing more research about my own health. I was reading more about the lion's diet, going down some rabbit holes there, and I was like, beef tallow, that's a good cooking fat, and I'm getting it anyway whenever as I cook through these different meat cuts. On my bacon sheet that would have the ribs, I would have them on parchment paper, and then it was an easy tallow gathering process. I would just pour that bacon sheet, the tallow that would come off as a liquid, into a jar and then put it in the refrigerator. I didn't even do any extra straining with it, and I used it very quickly. I don't have any tallow now. I do have a little bit of bacon grease, and if I had tallow that was already and lard that was already, that's what I would be using. Since last summer, I haven't been cooking so much with butter like how I used to. I do use coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, of course tallow. I haven't cooked with lard much, but I'm sure I'll love it. And all of this beef fat came with my whole cow, which is very curious because I think I've purchased 3 whole cows before, and this was my 4th. And I never got the fat before. I never asked for the fat. I didn't know that I could. I didn't even know this was a thing. Again, beef fat as a healthy cooking oil option did not enter my universe until this summer. So whenever I bought my 4th full cow for my household of 10, September 2024-ish, the fat came with it. And I was like, I love you people. I have been learning about tallow, and I see this, and you are giving me this fat, and I appreciate it. Now the lard is from the last full pig that I bought, which was probably about 2 years ago. You know that one of my large family mama freezers went. I had 5 full freezers, which is not outside the realm of possibility of a mom of 9. I know a lot of large family moms that have 2 freezers, 3 freezers, 4, or a whole freezer room. It's a whole thing. I know that's on the extreme freezer side of things, but again, for a mom with 9 kids, for a woman who feeds 10 to 15 to sometimes 30, all these things make sense. That being said, I recently shared that my 5th freezer died, and because it's not outside the realm of possibility that I am moving in 2025 and we are gonna have so many fun upcoming adventures, that's how I'm looking at it. It's all an adventure, it's all great. I'm not looking at replacing that freezer quite yet. There's gonna be a lot of spinning and organization and things that need done. So what I'm working on now is cooking down things that have been in my freezer, you know, waiting for another day, like this lard, several packs of it here that have waited for 2 whole years. They just need to get out of my freezer because let me tell you, hey, single mom of a household of 10, you go to move, you go to spend a lot of things. Would some freezer meals be helpful? Yeah. Are freezer meals helpful? I'm sorry, I'm now giving you a freezer meal dissertation in my lard and beef tallow rendering video, but that's okay. Just hold on tight and ride along. Freezer meals are helpful, which is why I've been sharing them on the internet for well over a decade in nice, normal, perfect life circumstances. Just with sports in the evening and cheerleading practice or a soccer game or family vacation or whatever. So when life is a little lumpy and bumpy, they're even more helpful. All that to say, that's why we got 150 pounds of fat out of the freezer. We are gonna render this fat down in so many different ways today. Do need to have a chopping party though. That's a whole thing. I have some teens that are gonna help me, and we're gonna get this cooking down. And that way I'll have room in my 4 freezers I have left for these upcoming Mama Sanity Saving freezer meals that we are gonna fill the freezers with. I have 1 beef freezer and we're using the beef from that. I wanna can a bunch of the ground beef. We ate all the ribeyes, we're working through the roast. There are some sirloins and some beef tip cuts left. There's also bones for more beef bone broth, so we're getting to all the things. So as I say, so many massive food preservation projects coming up. My plan is today, we are going to cook down much of this in not 1, not 2, but 3 roaster ovens. And then I have my 30-quart stock pot ready, and then I have my 45-quart stock pot ready. I have not broken this puppy out since, I believe it was fall 2022 when I was doing a lot of corn food preservation and canning and such. I used that for several massive food preservation projects. And I thought it would be very appropriate to come on out and get busy again today. Also, I've been reading about folks that render down their fat in the oven and also using slow cookers, which I don't have one out to point to you. Hey, I'll point to my slow cooker cabinet there as well. But I have heard that we need to cut the fat down into small chunks to get it cooking, and we need to cook it on a low heat. One friend was telling me last night about 280 degrees. I also talked to my friend Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead because she had shared some IG stories about cooking down some fat in one roaster oven, and I messaged her about that. She gave me some quick cliff notes. Basically, she just said to add a little water to the pan and then add the fat, and I want to slowly cook it down until the water has evaporated. Don't know how long that's gonna take, don't know how many quart jars we're gonna get, don't know how any of this is working out, but I know we're doing it. And honestly, sorry I'm turning my back on you, one of the things I'm going to do is get some cutting boards and knives out and have 2 strapping, tall teenage guys work on cutting down some fat for their mama. And while they do that, I'm going to eat. Sounds appropriate, right? I'm also gonna get some sweet potatoes in a slow cooker for dinner tonight. I'm gonna do some things. They can do some things for me, I do some things for them. It's a big family effort. So let's get these fellas cutting some beef fat. So I've been taking a few minutes here and I am going to get my fellas all set up with what they need. I'm getting out a variety of cutting boards and some sharp knives, also setting around. Let mama just help you out and at least get all the beef fat on the table. You know, as I say, Mama loves a good workflow. So what I'm thinking is they will sit here and each just take a bag of fat and start chopping, start filling a bowl, and then once that is full, we have more. I love these 30-quart bowls. I bought my first 30-quart mixing bowl about timeline. Been here 5 years? Oh, isn't that interesting? Yeah, okay, 5 years. Was at the Forest House about 4 years. So probably about 8 years ago, I'm the first YouTube mom to ever buy these 30-quart bowls. Several other big cooking YouTube mamas enjoy these now, and tons of viewers have bought them. I just remember doing freezer meals for my then large family of 8 to 9, and I was in that kitchen and I didn't have any truly big bowls. So I went on Amazon with a quest to find the biggest bowl, and man, for 30 bucks, I mean, because usually they're like $28, $31, whatever. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. I've seen some of the reviews where like people use them as a shower basin. You could wash a child in this. That's some of the reviews. Anyway, I've got 4 of them, and they're phenomenal for so many projects. I mean, I've been using them almost a decade now, right? They haven't done us wrong. So we're just gonna start getting the fat in here. Don't worry, I'll pay them in other adventures while I get them working. I haven't eaten yet today. I'm finishing up an almost 18-hour fast. Go apophagy fasting for mama. Gonna get my meal going, and then I'll jump in and join them, and we'll get it cooking and go from there. Okay, friends, well, mama had lunch, and we have a 30-quart bowl of beef fat and another 30-quart bowl of beef fat. We got chopping going down. We got bags open. We're doing it. So I just got done listening again to messages from Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead. Because again, I messaged her maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago now, asking her any other last questions about rendering down the beef fat. And the big tip she gave me is she said for me to put 2 to 3 cups of water on the bottom of my roaster. That way, while things are cooking down, the beef fat does not get scorched. She also said she does hers about 250 to 300, which is great because again, One of my friends, which has done a lot of fat rendering, also told me about 280 to 300, so that'll work well. Jessica also told me that she has heard folks, and I think she said she did it this way too, where she had in the past, and she has also heard of other folks who run their beef fat through the meat grinder. But she said that she thinks it's 6 one way, half dozen another, as I like to say, because whenever she has to then clean cold fat out of a meat grinder and go through all of that, she feels like it takes the same amount of time. But if someone is processing a smaller amount of fat or wants to test that and run it through the meat grinder first, it obviously liquefies a lot faster. So let's just see how much fat we can fit in here. And I'm going to be in the kitchen all afternoon here. My plan is to just get this going and go around and keep stirring and get this thing done over the next several hours. I had 2 of my big guys here chopping this down this afternoon, and that has been super helpful. I have not looked yet as far as doing tallow lotion. So probably once I get some of this going, I'm not planning on doing tallow lotion, but when you're processing 130 pounds of tallow, maybe I'll figure some of that out and test it out. We'll see. I do like my lotions. I am using a lotion on my face now from the Trim Healthy Mama ladies. I'll tell you what it is here in a minute. I think it's the 2nd or 3rd time I've gotten a container of that lotion, and I just like it. Okay, it's probably pretty good. We got another thing, look at that, another bowl of beef fat coming our way. So I'm gonna get the 2nd one going. I had my jar. And I hear it cooking already. So this is good. So they are, looks like they're, I want to say more than half done chopping down the beef fat. There's 2 packs that are almost done, and then another like 27-pound pack. And then we have the lard. I told them I want to keep the lard in a separate bowl. I just want to be intentional about knowing, you know, what's lard and what's tallow. But I was really proud of us for even getting this project going. So I'm now adding more of the chopped fat to the roaster. Now I know my friend Jessica on Three Rivers Homestead did mention to me whenever I was messaging her and we were going back and forth with little helpful cliff notes that some folks, she said, will use a meat grinder, but she does not find that cleaning all the cold fat out of the meat grinder necessarily has worked well in the past. She'd rather just chunk it up and do a roaster full. I'm not sure with this volume, maybe I should do a meat grinder at some point. I'm not sure. You know, when I've watched her do it, it's sensible amounts, like maybe 20 or 30 pounds at a time. But again, since I'm down a freezer and I really want to get stashed up on freezer meals again, I wanted to get this 150 pounds of beef fat and also pork fat out of my freezer, especially the pork, because that has been in there for 2 years. It has been a good 2 years since I bought a whole hog, and I'd love to do it again in the future, but I'll probably wait to get us settled if we end up moving before I do that and continue to focus on using up this full cow that I bought end of summer 2024. And again, I've never gotten the beef fat before, so this was wonderful. They asked me if I wanted it, and I said, sure, I will definitely take it. And this is a good experience for me. As I've been sharing, I enjoyed using tallow, and I definitely want to continue to use it as a good, healthy cooking fat option. And what a fun experience trying to gather up my own through the cow that I purchased. Okay, I turned this pot, it was on high for like 3 minutes. I put it on medium. It's cooking down really fast, and I've heard I need to do this low and slow, right? I need to do this like between 280, 300, and this is probably too fast. So just put this down on low, and I do need to add some more fat to this. I love beef fat. I love cuts of meat with beef fat, ribeyes, roast, all of it. So ode to beef fat and 85% dark chocolate. To refill some of my pots that are cooking down, I'm gonna take this bowl and switch it out and put some more fat in my pots that are going. Okay, so I'm gonna add some more of this fat to this pot that's cooking down. And then I also thought, now this one, I think this was the last roaster to get going. So this one, well, it's hot to the touch, but we stirred it. Now this one I could probably stir again and add some more too. Alright, so got a little bit that didn't fit in that 30 quart stock pot. I'll put in this one. And I don't know, maybe this is how this works. Maybe as it cooks down and liquefies, you can add more in. That's what having these big cooking experiences and trying new things is all about. After this experience, I will have some more knowledge on how to improve next time and how this all works. Alrighty, friends, just poofed up dinner for tonight that I want to get in the oven. We're doing surprise, surprise, sweet potatoes, regular old potatoes, and some farm chickens. So that's why I'm a little out of breath, because I just ran downstairs and brought all that up. This is looking good. Just gonna keep on stirring it. And then we'll go check this one. This needs a good stir. I'm so glad I picked up this big wooden spoon at, I believe I just got it at my local hardware store. One of my YouTube viewers maybe 8 years ago sent me one almost this size, and I used it for so much of my big batch YouTube cooking for so many years. And I believe in the last 2 years it had an incident. I don't really know what happened, but something with the dishwasher, and it didn't go well for that spoon. And so anyway, I finally got to the point where I needed a replacement spoon. Oh, I know where I got this. I ordered this on Amazon. I have another spoon almost this long, but it's rounded at the end. That was at my local hardware store. This one, finally, a few months ago, I just ordered it. And I'm so glad for these big cooking projects that I have it. Coming back to this one again. Getting to where everything needs pretty good stirring often. We'll take a stirring break for a few minutes to get dinner in the oven here soon. Actually, I'm going to put some more beef fat in these pots too. So, yep, I've just come a theory at this point that this fat is going to cook on down, and I can just keep adding more to my roasters and my pots. I need to do that anyway, or I'm going to have to get many more pots a-going. So I think this is going to work. At this point, I believe this will be like cooking down tomatoes or other items that we cook down to a certain point. And so I'm just taking the big 30-quart bowl around and adding a little bit more to each of the 22-quart roasters and this 30-quart stock pot and stirring everything often, which in the videos I've watched and the friends I've talked to, and again, say it with me, Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead told me to just keep on stirring it. So that's where we're following directions. All right, this is becoming liquid, going from a solid to a liquid. It's doing it. Need to go back to do a stir on everything. I just got dinner in the oven for tonight. We got some other things happening, and this process is continuing. And we are being good, faithful stirrers of all of this fat that's cooking down. And I just wore a short sleeve dress because I knew the kitchen was going to get nice and toasty. Alrighty, and this one needs a stir. So this is just the massive stirring portion of the video. I kind of look like I'm rowing a boat though. Alright, and then we're going to visit this one. And I have my good, faithful choppers in the background, still chopping up more fat for Mama. All right, I think we are coming to the end of this beef fat. We still have the lard. I'm wondering now though, because I lost one of my guys so far for another activity. I have one left who finished up and what the other guy was doing. So I'm just thinking right now, I might have to take the lard and put that in the refrigerator and come back to it. I don't know. I don't have to decide right now. I know I have beef fat that we need to move on here. Okay, this one has some room. Okay, so it is finished. This is the last bit of the beef fat. So I'm gonna put some in that roaster there. I think my other ones are full to overflowing. So, don't know. Well, first off, let's see. Let's see how much we can get in here. I might be able to get a handful into each of the other two. And then I just got my oolong tea for the evening. I thought maybe what I'll do is I'll put my earbud in, get one of my books going, and you guys can very fast watch me chop down and process 30 pounds of lard, right? My guys did 130 pounds of beef fat. That would be, what is that, 65 pounds per teenage boy. So that's good, that's good. And then Mama will do 30 pounds of lard. That's what we call fair. That's the queen treatment at our house. Alrighty, so before we get chopping down the lard, I want to go visit all of our roasters and big pots and get these stirred again. So yeah, that might just be the teen boy rite of passage at our house, that, you know, you chop up 65 pounds of something for your mom. You know, my sons that are adults now, way back 10 years ago, my earlier days on YouTube when I was doing big batch freezer cooking. On those videos, they would be in the background, you know, helping me make peanut butter and jellies for the freezer, or flipping French toast, or doing various odds and ends, hauling things to the garage freezer for me, whatever we needed. So now I just have my next generation of mom big batch cooking on YouTube background assistants, which is nice for them to help their mama. And so I'm giving everything its good stir, making sure I'm getting to the bottom and flipping the bottom to the top and moving everything around. Again, this wonderful big batch, mega massive cooking spoon that I got from Amazon is definitely helping me row my boats of beef fat this evening. Okay, actually I have my whole little lard chopping set up over there. However, I feel like I need to go around and stir all this fat again. This stove is on as low as it will go for the burner. So hopefully this one won't be too scorched. Just from what I've read, the, you know, low and slow will give a whiter tallow. We shall see, but I'm just gonna go around, give everything a stir, and then sit down and get our chopping going. I guess I will set my timer maybe for 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes take a stir break. Okay, and then go over here. I hear this bubbling nicely. It was super great to get my 2 teen guys to chop down all this beef fat for me, so I was able to continue on with my mom life and working mom things, work on my to-do list while they got this done. So it's always nice to help your mama. Got my little ones I drop. I'm stirring with one arm at the moment and holding my camera. other hand. But we're doing it. I'm a pretty okay camera holder and beef fat stirrer all at the same time. As you can see there, it's turning white. It is cooking down. We are getting some of the liquid fat gold happening in the roasters. And again, like we love to say, I'm proud of us, we're doing it. The yellow mixing bowl there that we got recently at a thrift store is getting broken in on this evening because I'm using that to hold my massive stirring spoon in between stirs. I'm trying to go around in every 15 to 30 minutes, sometimes sooner, sometimes a little later, but I continued to work through several hours on this evening of stirring things up. And it's a big commitment. There's no getting this going like some projects and then shoving it in the fridge and wait until another day. It's like while this is going, we're committed. So while I went to help a toddler, I had one of my folks get the lard into this 30-quart bowl. And again, with the weight of the packages, it wasn't actually labeled how many pounds it was. When I held the lard, I based it on how much the tallow packages felt, and I estimated it to be about 30 pounds of lard. So we will get this going next. I think I'm just going to get this going in maybe like a 20-quart stock pot. I think that's what we will do with this one. What time will this end? You know, I started on this day. We got our homeschool done the first half of the day. And then in the afternoon, I had some mama business work I had to do. And I believe about 2:30, I made the move to start working towards this project. So it was about 4 when I actually started to have the first loads of cut down beef fat going in the very first roaster. Perfect world. I love perfect world scenarios. Again, I love everything really going like how it could on paper, right? Perfect world for someone who is only managing and juggling the processing of 150 pounds of fat. You could start at 9 a.m. and even if you were done by 9 p.m., I mean, that's a long work day, but that's like that sensible time. So I started at 4 p.m. officially-ish. So yeah, keep watching and let's see when I'm done. So yes, we are finally to the mama chop and lard time of the evening, and I have, I think, some oolong tea or some green tea going in my cup there. Not drinking it while I'm chopping, but definitely got a good chug before we got started. There's my little tea. What am I drinking in my tea? Question there. Question and answer time. So I'm chopping up this lard. Now, many hours beyond this, I did finally get to some beef and pork rendering videos where there are folks that cook it whole without chopping it up. And that's obviously a longer cooking process. Well, I was chopping up this pork fat, and I don't know, like, what part of the pig is this from? I'm not sure. As I listen to more videos and such, people know, like, especially with the cow, like what fat comes from around the kidney and what fat comes. I don't know any of these things. I just know I've had this in my freezer and I want to learn. I want to learn how to use it. So fat is fat to me, but I know as you really dive deep in this fat rendering knowledge and experiences, folks know where the fat comes from and what's the best fat and request that fat and all those good things. So anyway, Mama don't know those things yet, but Mama's doing it, and that's what matters. We are checking the box and getting this done. I am listening to an audiobook during this, through part of it, and then through another part of it, I'm listening through another video that I need to get published here shortly. So definitely multitasking, at least with my ears, while I'm chopping and just getting it as decently chopped as I could. So very thankful again for my teen guys who chopped down all that beef fat for me to work with. That was super helpful, and I always appreciate it. So we're continuing to chop this down. And then I'm going to get this going in its own separate pot because I didn't want to accidentally forget which pot was the tallow and which pot was the lard. I just wanted to keep a focus on making sure I was keeping my tallow and lard separate.
I wanted to be able to see the colors and see the differences and know what I'm cooking with when and all of those good things.
So I have some hope with that lard. I'm going to go ahead and get the little bit we have chopped, and I'm going to get that going in this pot, and then we will add to it. So this will be a late night project. I have not had a real big, good late night project in a long time on purpose, because these days I protect my rest and my energy. But we have a weekend with fun activities, just a little light filming for another video. So we can stay up and get this huge project done. I mean, we won't have to render down fat for a good year or so. And I think we might have some to share with friends too. So all of that is really nice. And I plan to sit and read and rest, put my feet up, do those kind of things. Of course, I've been sitting with my feet up watching through my next video for some edits. And I've been multitasking with that. I also have dinner for my family. It's probably done in the oven, so I'll be doing that, taking a break for that too. Let's turn that down low. Yeah, just the stirring breaks continue. So let's see, we got this 30 quart and the roaster ovens, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6. We got about 96 quarts of beef tallow cooking down now currently by the pot sizes. Of course, adding up the pounds on packaging, it was about 130 pounds. Okay, so let me get the lard going. This is just to give us some hope and some movement in this project. Alrighty, next stop.
So yeah, I definitely think that this third roaster over here, I believe after this cooking project that there's probably a coil or something out in it. I probably just need to let it go. But it did not heat as fast as my other roasters. My other roasters, I had the heat down 280, 300. And on that third roaster over by my second dishwash sink, I had to have that up on 400, 425 just to get it to cook down the fat. I mean, it still worked. It just had to work on a higher heat. And maybe for processing tomatoes and things in the future, maybe this is just fine. I just need to mark that roaster, which I didn't do that night, to know which one is which. So I guess we'll see this adventure again.
Walking by, trying to get to another roaster, and I just feel like this one needs stirred again. Again, this is on low heat on my gas stove. I just feel like it's cooking hotter than the other ones.
And even though that 30 quart pot is on low heat, boy, it was boiling really well. So that one is to the point where I am needing to stir it about every 15 minutes faithfully. And I'm going back now to work on chopping up some more of the lard, but at least the first load of lard is going. Now I'm just going to add this lard right back to, and I mean, I guess this isn't lard yet. This is just pork fat. So I'm going to add this to the pot that I now have going. And it's just a 20 quart stock pot. And I can't wait to have some of the cracklins though. I've heard good things about those. One of my friends was telling me about using a lard press, how you can really get all the fat, the liquid fat out of the cracklins, and then you're left with some really crispy goodness. And I don't have a lard press available to use right now, so I'm just going to try to squish some of the fat that's left and squeeze out as much of the liquid as possible. And I mean, it could all go wrong. Maybe we're going to fail at all of this, but maybe we're going to get some stuff done too. And I feel like at this point in the evening, I can see on my watch there, it's 8:21. It's like, okay, we've been at this. Well, started at 2:30, but started cooking at 4. I'm thinking at this point, this is going to be a late night. I don't know how late yet, but I'm thinking this is going to be a late one. And again, we're committed. There's no stopping now at this point. And hey, I could finish one audiobook and start another. And actually on this evening, I finished listening to Dr. Benjamin Bickman's Why We Get Sick. He's got two, Why We Get Sick and How We Get Sick. I've read the smaller one. I've finished listening to the longer chapter book one on this evening. And then I start listening to Dr. Jason Fung's The Obesity Code book. Much later, several hours past this, hint, hint for our future. We don't actually get that 60 quart. I keep calling it a 45 quart stock pot. That is a 60 quart stock pot behind us. I have a 45 quart All-American canner that is a beautiful beast. I love her. She's amazing. But the one behind me that we don't use is a 60 quart. I have used it in the past. Didn't know if I'd end up needing it on this big fat rendering day or not.
Alrighty, just finished chopping the last of the lard. Gotta go around now and give everything a good stir. The process is working. Okay, got the rest of the lard going. Got a different big spoon. Got this at my local hardware store a couple years ago, maybe a year or two. Anyway, all my different lives I've lived, haha, these last couple years. Pretty sure I bought that local. Anyway, okay, so this is cooking through. Gonna add the rest of our lard adventure to this. And this one, I go to leave it and I feel like it needs continually stirred, which we have been hopping around to all these different pots and roasters. And I'm doing this on like a Mennonite lard processing level, but they would have like 12 of them working on it, you know? That's how this many pounds of fat rendering generally goes down. You know, we do things a little different around here, but this isn't nothing new. I mean, the actual large-scale fat rendering, this is a fun new adventure. However, you and me staying up late, doing big cooking projects, we've been doing that. We've been doing that for years and years, haven't we? So this will be our first one of 2025. Don't know how many late night ones we'll have, but again, it's gonna be perfect because tomorrow we have an afternoon birthday party. I don't have to leave the house until about 11 or so to get things for that, so I can sleep in tomorrow, and it's Saturday. Isn't that nice? And Sunday we're doing church and have a big lunch planned at home after that, and some evening light family activities, so all good. Now we'll check in with this one. I am going to have a family member come out here and get the dishwashers loaded, so that can be moving forward in life. This one, even though it's at 300, it just doesn't seem to be as hot as the other ones. One is just a roll, and I'm going to actually turn this one down a little bit. You are pretty excited. See if I can pick that up. Put that in there. I'm waiting for the, when can I get in my pajamas and sit and read with my feet up time of the evening.
And I think we're about there. I think when I am done here real soon, I mean, it's after 9 o'clock now, I'm going to go ahead and call it PJ Party Nighttime Fat Rendering Time, okay? PJ's on, fat rendering the night away, we can do it. This is how single moms have a good time.
Actually, because I mean, this one, it's not like we started it an hour after these other roasters. We started this, like, I feel like within 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to bump this heat up a little bit and see if we can at least, I mean, it's not even bubbling. And everything else is on 300 and boiling. What you doing with your life, roaster? Okay, and I know my roaster's a little beat up. Okay, we've had some adventures. Anyway, I'm just gonna turn that up a little bit. See what we can work out. Well, hello. The entertainment continues. I've got all my folks are long in bed now. I'm still stirring. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and work on pouring off some of the tallow that we got going in the roasters and working through that process, and then continuing to let other loads cook down. We'll see if I can find all my words now. I think we can find some. Now this roaster, I wondered if it has a coil out or not. I put it all the way up on 400 just to get the same action that I see happening in these other roasters that are on 280 or 300. So, not sure what's going on here. But I mean, now that it's on 400, it's boiling away. But of course, we want to cook it on a low and slow temperature.
So yes, pajama party time has commenced. Let's just fat render the night away and see this project finished. We can do it though. This is how I get things done. Now, I used to cook like this all the time and just totally did not put taking care of me, myself, and I first. And that did not put my health in a good place. So these days, and you know, I have not pulled an all-night cooking stunt, I think since March 2023 when I canned those 380 pounds of tomatoes. So anyway, we'll just call this a once-in-a-while cooking stunt, but this won't be our regular. I was committed. I had to follow this through. So anyway, so I have a whole little setup going in my sink at this point. And I'm actually, look, I'm double straining the tallow. I'm getting it into jars, and it's a beautiful golden color. And again, like I like to say, look at us, we're doing it. So I am straining it into my sink where I have multiple bowls and strainers and also a linen cloth that I'm using. So there's our first 3 jars of tallow. This is my little squirrely system I've been working on. Don't worry, I'm not pouring any down my sink, but I've got everything I need over there, and I'm working through it here and just doing it a quart at a time. And that's like how we do so many things in life, right? Just one chapter at a time, one book at a time, one paragraph at a time, one walking lap at a time, and it all adds up. That's how I've done my 60-pound weight loss thus far, is it's just been one meal at a time and making those decisions for that meal, and then by the time I get to the next meal, making those choices again and choosing myself as much as possible in that process. And so I'm getting beautiful golden jars of tallow. Did I do this right? I think I came pretty close, pretty good. My t-shirt also says not my first rodeo, but this is my first fat rendering rodeo. I have friends that do this with a group of friends outside, and they'll use wood and outside fires and big kettles, and it's a whole big thing. I also know many folks that do this on a smaller scale in their kitchens. I watched some videos during this time from Bumblebee Apothecary that I'll link down in the description, and she shows a double rendering process that she does in her slow cooker. Now she's dealing with 6 to 7 quarts, which is different than, and I don't know how many pounds she started with. I'm sure she says in her video, but she was working with just an average size slow cooker. And so, of course, I'm doing it super mega. And some folks are like, Jamerrill, why does everything have to be super mega? And it's just who I am. And it's how I like to do things. If I'm doing it, I'm doing it. And my goodness, because I need the freezer space and I need to work through projects with many things coming up in my life, I didn't want to do 30 pounds of fat. And then that's part of what I deal with in my life. When I get an opportunity to do something, I don't know when my life and, my paper penciled planner, don't know when things are going to line up again for me to have the opportunity. So when I have the opportunity, I seize it. Just like with the freezer meals. If I have a freezer cooking day, I do it. I get a bunch done. Because no matter how well I plan or try to coordinate, it could be 3 or 4 weeks or 3 or 4 months until I get to do it again. And so this fat has been staring at me, and it's taken up valuable freezer space. And it took me 2 weeks of circling and trying. Finally, on this day, hey, the fact that we didn't get started chopping till 2:30, it's okay. I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to take, but this is the day. We are doing this. We are going to conquer. We are going to be victorious. And so, got the fat cooking, started at 4. We're going to be up dealing with this until about 4 a.m. Oh, yes, we are. But that's okay. We don't render 150 pounds of fat every day. No, we don't. And I'm pouring out my roaster oven now to get the last little bits through my little straining system. And then I do end up getting a smaller strainer to put over my jars at some point. Do another strain. But my tallow at this point is looking very nice and clean. And we are continuing to strain it through my cloth there. And I'm pushing it with my spoon, and I'm pushing it through my strainer, and I'm getting it in the bowl. And then we strain it again from there.
So we are continuing. Apparently I'm headless Jamerrill. We're doing our double straining purification system right now. I got some extra meaty bits in that bowl, so I'm going to run it through. Nope, wrong thing. I'm going to run it through this next system. Hold on here. For towels for such a time as this. But I think our tallow is looking beautiful. I believe we are doing this. I mean, here we are doing it. We are headless when I stand up all the way I have my camera right now, but we are still doing it. The house is quiet. It's like the olden days. And we're getting a project done. And now I feel super good about how I'm doing things because I just watched my friend Ruth over on Homesteading with the Zimmermans. And what Ruth did, she just could have saved me a whole lot of time if I would have watched that video earlier, although it took a couple days. She didn't chop her 25 pounds down. She just put the whole thing in her roaster and let it cook. Then she turned it way down overnight while it cooked. Then the next day she turned it back up. So it was like a 2-day project, but she didn't cut it. So I guess I was feeling a little less confident because everything we cut was 1 to 2 inch, sometimes 3 inch cubes. But again, this is our first time doing it, and it's a beautiful golden yellow tallow. I think we are doing this fairly successfully. That's all. This is my 1 a.m. conversation, okay? Okay. Got to take a stirring break for what I have going. Well, one roaster oven is done. How many quarts did we get from a 22 quart roaster? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. There's probably a 14th quart with these cracklins I have here, because every time I set them in here, the weight of them presses out some more. And I know a friend of mine has a lard press, but they didn't have it. They couldn't get it to me, not that I know what to do with it yet. Hold on, we're gonna say full words, it's coming, before I did this project. So I've talked to some other folks and watched enough YouTube videos to see cheesecloth, or I'm just using these linen towels. It's doing the trick. We're doing it. And I know I've simply done it pulling the tallow off of my grass-fed roast and such. So this is just larger scale. Because it's so hot, I can't really squeeze it with my hand here. I think I'm going to dump these cracklings back in that roaster oven. I'll just slowly take it bowl to bowl to get there. Okay. So we'll just use the top of that. It's got to make itself useful. This is actually a 60 quart kettle. I was saying it was a 45 quart. Better just keep using this one. I just have to wash the top of that lid.
Our system has been working pretty well, and you see we brought out our stools just like the olden days. Good backup stools are kitchen tools in this mama's kitchen.
Okay, I'm gonna get reset here. I need to work with that roaster now. And it's just been easiest for me to work out of this sink, but I have multiple bowls. I haven't spilled any, they've done pretty good. Of course, we've got our longtime favorite kitchen edition of a stool. If you've been watching here a long time, you know us cooking with stools as extended countertops go way back. Okay. Laundry room to see if I can find more of these cloths. I used to have a little stack of them.
So we are doing it. We are straining this beef fat through the night. I am just continuing to push all the beef fat, strain it through my colanders there, and drain it again, and then put it into the jars. It's looking pretty good. It's looking great. And one of my friends messaged me on Instagram, a local friend, and she wanted to know how many times I rendered this. And I was like, oh my, no. I can't do this level of fat rendering like multiple times. But boy, it's looking beautiful on the counter. So I did see how that's done. Again, Bumblebee Apothecary, and I'll put her video down below. She rendered it, I believe, at least 2 times in her slow cooker. That's definitely possible. But again, I have a short window of time. I had one day, apparently a 12-hour window, but even there's prep before the cooking actually starts. So you can say I had a 24-hour period to get this done, and I had a birthday the evening of the following day. We stay up till 4 a.m. That afternoon, I had my 12-year-old's birthday party, but I slept a little bit, just a little bit, and went to bed really well that next evening. And took me about 2 or 3 days, just because I'm a middle-aged mama, to pay for this kitchen time. But that's okay, because we don't render all this fat every day. And I knew me straining this fat, in order for me to have to render it multiple times, that would be straining it down, which we end up with well over 50 quarts. Then I would have needed to put it back in a clean pot or a clean, probably it basically be my 3 roasters washed out, which I wanted to wash them outside as much as possible. I would have had to have had them washed out, put the strained tallow in them, put them in the refrigerator to let them cool, and then following the Bumblebee Apothecary method. Now she uses hers for cosmetics and for lotions and such too. So there just can't be any of the beef fat smell, which I want to bathe in beef fat. So there's that. But anyway, and then I would take it out. I would get it out of the roasters and I would scrape it. That's what she showed in her video tutorial, scraping the impurities off and then cooking it down again. And then possibly letting it solidify again, scraping it down, and then you can do it a 3rd time. I think that is great, especially for things that are going to be made into cosmetics or lotions and things that are sold to other people or that you give as gifts. I am just doing this for good cooking fat. I use bacon grease all the time for almost anything. Lots of bacon grease goes on around here. So I don't mind that bacon grease flavor getting in when I'm doing Brussels sprouts or, of course, cooking eggs or doing a great many things. And this summer, when I was pulling the tallow off of the beef ribs, the grass-fed ribs I was doing and the steaks I was doing and other adventures, I just poured it through a strainer simply into a jar, put it in the refrigerator, and used it from there. So I am rendering all of this fat for my own cooking purposes and then also to share with other friends who want to cook with it. Tallow lotion, that's the other thing. I probably, the option of making this into a lotion now, it's just not. It's just simply, hey, we're cooking with this beef fat and look at us. So for lotion and cosmetics and those sort of things, you would want to do smaller batches that you render multiple times, but it is looking so beautiful and I love it whenever we get working through these big projects together and I'm able to just put a book on, and if only I could walk back and forth that quickly, but I just get in my zone at this point. Everybody's long asleep at this point. I do believe I had 2 of my younger guys camp out in the living room there with the door open so they could be near Mama. They knew I was up working late and that was fine. They got to have a camp out. Okay, yes, and no, it's not PM, it's AM. We're getting things done. But we are continuing, and yes, another load. Let's go. So depending on where I was working, we moved the tools around. So now I'm working on straining the fat from the 30-quart pot. And just the weight of the solid fat that's still in there helped push the liquid out. And so I'm taking that around and straining it. And then I have a big roaster where I'm putting the solid fat pieces. I believed I cooked this down as much as I could have cooked it down. I honestly at one point wondered if maybe I cooked it down for too long because it had been liquid for a while. And I think at some point, you tell me though, I mean, I don't know. I think at some point the fat pieces were not going to cook down any further. And this is where if I used a grinder, maybe it would all cook down to nothing. We'll explore, I'll get another full cow in the future and we'll go again. And then we'll have this experience to pull from and continue on. But what I didn't want to happen is I didn't want to do a smaller batch and then 4 months go by and I not have any more fat render in time, especially when I need the freezer space coming up to do many more projects. So in my freezers now, we have the full beef freezer, which truly has only beef in it. I do have 4 to 5 big bags of bones. And so we do need to do some more beef broth coming up in the future. And then I have my chicken and pork freezer, which we're down now to about 5 of those whole farm-raised birds. I thought it was 4, but in the back of another freezer, I found another chicken the other day. So we do have 5, and I have used those. I mean, these have been my quick and easy freezer meals the last several months when I've had no actual big batch freezer meals. Now, we've had some spaghetti sauce, we've had some chili, but freezer meals how I like them in my perfect world. On paper we haven't had, and so we've been using which is why I bought it. Hey, I bought a full cow for my household of 10, and we are using that cow down, having the grass-fed roast and the steaks and the different meat cuts. Now we're getting to the point where I've got quite a bit of ground beef. I do want to can that, not all of it, but can a good bit to get that out of the freezer. It is wonderful to have ground beef on hand for a variety of quick and easy meals: taco meat, sloppy joes, spaghetti sauce, chili, my favorites, Philly cheesesteak casserole, so many good things where the ground beef is done. So it's a matter of opening home canned jars of farm raised food, and that's pretty decent for this single mama. Anyway, look at all those golden jars. They're looking so beautiful. It's just a big accomplishment looking at all that. We worked all day, and we're still a-working. We're still doing it. Now I'm working on straining the fat. Well, yeah, okay. So that's what happens when you spill a nice stainless steel bowl full of fat. That was sad, but we just cleaned it up, and hey, the cats will love this floor. I do wipe it up, and I do the next day, because I was obviously looking at all of these towels I cleaned up a spill with, and the spoons and the roasters and the pots, and I knew that I needed to handle a lot of this outside before getting any little bits down my drains. I don't need those adventures. And we've always handled that pretty well, except if you remember way back at the Forest House, there was a time that I hadn't had a garbage disposal in 15 years or more. And for some reason, I thought it was a good idea to put a whole pot of burnt noodles down my garbage disposal, and yeah, that didn't go well. So learn things. So now I'm cautious. Now what happens is just oddities end up down my garbage disposal, and thank goodness I have plumbers I can call. And now I'm pulling out the cracklins from the lard, and boy, they're a delicious 3 in-the-morning snack, let me tell you. Delicious stuff. Back to talking about how I'm going to handle cleaning up all this mess. Well, for tonight, we're going to do the basics, like a basic tidy. But all of these pots and roasters and towels, all of it, in the afternoon of this day that follows, we just get all of those outside and heavily spray them down with the hoses and scrape. Take wooden kitchen spoons and just scrape the little bits of fat that, with that amount of processing, could really add up to a big clog down my drains. So we handle a good bit of that outside. And then we get a snow. And I just let the stuff get snowed on, because that's the kind of woman I am. And so it's outside for a couple days and pretty purified by nature. And then we bring everything in and give it traditional wash downs. And that's how I handle 150 pounds of fat rendering. That's my country mama adaptation. Now I'm still going through and pulling the tallow off where I've stacked all the fat chunks that are still left. And this is where I'm sure like an actual fat press would help. Maybe I would have ended up with 67 quarts instead of 50 plus quarts. Hard to tell. But again, doing this on my own for definitely the overnight part. I did not cut this beef fat, but I cooked it and I processed it and I double strained it and I did the thing. Okay, so this is the lard, and we got a ton of tallow. It is $3.28.
I'm gonna try to just close up shop the best I can. I got a little grease spill on the side of my sink, which was actually pretty good, just a little bit. So we'll just wipe that out with a paper towel. And all of my greasy cookware, my roasters, my bowls, my stock pots, even my kitchen towels and washcloths, these are just gonna sit. And now once I get up tomorrow, today, we will take all of this outside to the hose and spray it all down. I'll probably even take our dish soap from Azure out there. And I mean, it'll be cold water, but we'll be able to get a good bit out, and that'll be good. Okay, thoughts. So we've got 5.5 quarts of lard. I've got 2, 4, 6.5 plates of cracklings over there. So I don't really know how to store those. I do know they're delicious. And some 3 in the morning pork cracklings, it's a whole vibe. So I appreciated that. I do, I see that this lard is a dark amber where our tallow is a light yellow, but I'm still going to at least mark the lard lids. This one I'll probably just end up putting in my refrigerator first. And I don't have our final tallow numbers, although the jars are there and I think I can still count. But I'm thinking, well, I need to know a number. And then I'm thinking of 4 families I could share some tallow with, which is a good use of tallow. It's a product that many times gets thrown away anyway. And I feel like my family will have good animal fat for a year. I'm thinking 2 jars a month. For a household of 10 would be 24. Anyway, we'll do math here in a minute. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm gonna find my marker and mark those. So nice. My marker was where I left it. Okay, so the math is in on the tallow. It's 56 quarts of tallow, 5.5 quarts of lard. This has been fun. This is my idea of a good time. So quickly what I'm thinking, might have a different brain, well, I will have a different brain after I sleep, is that if I kept half of the tallow and then shared the other half, that's what good friends do. I'm not sure how much we use. I know when I was cooking with a lot of butter, I mean, we could go through several sticks in one day. I know my jars of bacon grease, I collect weekly. They're usually the smaller jars, and I roll through those. I know this summer, the tallow I collected, I used very quickly. So, yeah. Well, the only way to know is to get some experience with it and experiment. I mean, this is the big fat rendering of 2025, and so now we'll see how we use it over this year. I'm not going to mark the tallow tonight. I wanted to mark the lard. Although again, at this point, I can really tell a visual difference between the two. Okay, so we have our numbers. I need those cracklings, I'm not sure what to do with. And we know what we're doing with the towels and the pots. So that's good. I just feel like the cracklings are gonna get soggy once they go in the refrigerator overnight. The pork cracklings, I mean, they really fried up nicely. I have friends that have done a lot of lard processing, like outside over logs in big kettles, and they talk about eating the cracklings. So anyway, I'm just gonna try to save them. Maybe I'll think of something tomorrow.
So it's beautiful, and we did it. We done did it, friends. 12 plus massive hours of massive fat rendering in the Mega Mama kitchen. I love it. I did it. I labeled the lard just for me to go get a couple hours of sleep. Again, please note, I don't normally run like this. I don't normally process fat till 4 in the morning, and then 12 hours later host a big 12-year-old's birthday party. But once in a while, once every couple years, we can pull these stunts.
Well, friends, we did it. I mean, it took a pretty decent recovery period. Let's see. We started officially with the roasters. Now that I can process this massive 150 pounds of fat processing process. Okay, so we got a total of 56 quarts of tallow, and then again, 5.5 quarts of lard. This was my first time making a go at it, and of course we did it Mega Mama style. And again, I say first time. I did start gathering tallow in small little pint jars in summer 2024, but now we got quart jars, and that is really exciting. So back to the time that it took. I got the fat going about 4 p.m. in the roasters, and it's just one of those projects, especially on the scale, it's just a commitment until it's done. So my head hit the pillow around 4 a.m. So it was 12 hours start to finish. We left these out on the island to solidify over the next day or so. And my kitchen, would you believe, with the oven and the cooking and the many human bodies that live and move and eat in this room anyway, so it heats up in here. So about the 24-hour mark or so, I had my teens get these into the downstairs refrigerators just to help them solidify the rest of the way. I mean, the tallow was, I'd say 90%. So anyway, that is how it turned out. Now, a couple people have asked me how many times I processed it. Of course, I strained things twice. On this scale, I was not going to go through the process like how I watched on Bumblebee Apothecary. I'll link her video down below, and some other videos where they're doing like a 6-quart slow cooker full, and also using the tallow for lotions and soaps, and even products that can be made and sold in Etsy shops and all those fun adventures. My purpose with this was having a year's worth of good, healthy cooking fats, and I believe I accomplished that with enough to share with friends and family. I already messaged one of my neighbors. I'm going to bring them over a couple quarts. I got some other friends I'm going to share with also. With the tallow, there is the ever so slight beef smell, which again, I'm fine with that. I'm cooking with it. Also, I'm used to using bacon grease, which tastes like bacon grease. And I also cooked a lot with tallow this summer. There were no complaints. But I wouldn't take this tallow that has that slight beef smell and make it into hand lotion and other fun adventures. Again, I know in the Bumblebee Apothecary video, she showed the process of processing it in her slow cooker once. So I watched about 2 a.m. And then I believe she let it solidify in her refrigerator. She then scraped off the impurities that were at the bottom. And I may have this a little backwards, but that's okay, that's what we do here. Then she rendered it down again and went through that process. However, even with a big refrigerator and multiple roaster ovens and all these fun adventures, I was proud to check the box, get 150 pounds of fat successfully processed, start using this good stuff, and go on from there. So I've got my lard labeled. I'm going to label these jars, and then my canning storage room downstairs is nice and cool year-round. And so Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead says that the tallow she does, she finds that it is shelf stable for about a year. And so I'm going to have my folks help me unload it onto our canning shelves, and we will see how things go. I am so glad. It was such a big accomplishment to get this done. And you know, it haunted me for a few weeks. And I have moved on to other adventures for this week. Thank you so much for pulling an all-nighter with me. I slept until, it was a rough broken sleep. I slept 4 hours solid till about 8:30. And then I was kind of able to broken sleep until 12. And then that night, I went to bed nice and early and got flipped around. So thank you for watching me fumble around with this first big fat rendering adventure on a Mega Mama scale. I appreciate you, and I will see you very soon with another brand new video. Bye-bye.